Hi guys, Marshall here, and happy Friday. Happy Avengers Endgame Day, where my kids and I are going to be going to that after I'm done here. Also, happy Game of Thrones big battle weekend, so we're going to see what happens that way. Good luck to the Starks. So today, as promised yesterday, we're going to talk about what it takes, the one thing that heals your trauma, okay? And the reason this has been uploaded, by the way, as well, is because there's technology issues on my end. The internet is not having fun with me today, so I decided to record it and then I'll upload it when the internet works. All right, let's get to it. So today we're talking about the one thing that heals trauma, okay? Yesterday we talked about what trauma is and that it is a result of what didn't happen after an intense event, right? When we're going through traumatic events, our nervous system is stimulated into either fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Typically, if we're not fighting or fleeing, we move into fawning and freezing, or freezing, because it can be a combination of them, and then we get stuck in it. Our nervous system can't re-regulate back to its baseline of openness, relaxation, and safety. And that's because the primal brain, the amygdala, the hippocampus, the brainstem, the limbic system, are energized into what's called hypersensitivity or hyperarousal. And so it gets stuck in that state because it didn't get resolution to the danger. The big need, guys, in resolving trauma is to resolve the danger at the level of the primal brain. So let's understand what this means. The primal brain has very specific needs, and they're not going to be conscious needs. They're not going to be rational needs. They're not going to be needs that make that they're civilized, is another good word. They're actually going to be very basic things. So it has very specific needs for it to feel safe. It needs to defend itself. In other words, it needs to kill or eliminate the threat in some way. It needs to feel safe. And for it to feel safe, it needs to be free of the threat, whether real or imagined. The threat must be neutralized. It needs balance. So that balance means it needs exposure to stimulus, and it also needs rest. And when the nervous system is locked or frozen in a state of high alert, it doesn't get defense, safety, or balance because it can't rest, it can't open up, it can't breathe, okay? This is where we get stuck in emotional flashbacks. This is where trauma triggers happen. This is where foggy brain comes from. This is where we lose contact with ourselves. We dissociate. We go foggy. We go away. This is where we do irrational things, or people in dealing with PTSD have massive flashbacks and they feel like they're back in the event. This is why your body begins to crawl when normal things start happening around you, but those normal things were also happening during the traumatic event, like a smell, a particular color, a shape of an object. Your brain, because in trauma, your brain shuts off what's called explicit memory mode, and it turns on what's called implicit memory mode. And that's because the hippocampus becomes dysregulated in intense situations where we're feeling threatened. And so what happens is memory is encoded somatically. Basically, our senses become the memory. We're not having executive level rational thinking involved in the memory formation. This is why trauma victims have a hard time recalling time, date, the time it took, specific things about the event, because they're actually recalling somatic memory or implicit memory rather than explicit detailed memory. Okay? So this is what we're dealing with here. When we talk about healing trauma, that one thing you need to access the body's need for defense, safety, and back to balance. And that can be kind of overwhelming to accomplish. So let's talk about how that's done. So basically, if the body needs to feel defended, it needs to do certain things that aren't going to be civilized or actually things we can do legally or kindly or even capable of doing. One of them would be killing the threat. A lot of times the clients I have worked with, and even myself, the threat, when it's eliminated, Your body's like, I can relax. There's nothing going to get me anymore, right? So there's killing the threat. There's hurting the threat to a point where it's neutralized. There's caging the threat so it can no longer escape. There's eliminating the ability of the threat to harm you. You cut off the thing that would hurt you. It's moving to a place in time in which the threat cannot access you, like a different universe, a different galaxy, that kind of thing. It's also creating exposure and accountability that nullifies the threat, because now everyone sees the threat for what it is, and so they can't take action against you. These are the common themes I've found both within myself and within my students and clients that I've helped get closure with in trauma. This is what they've had need for in order to accomplish that. So realistically, we can't do these things in life because it's technically going to cause more problems. We're not going to exit the experience feeling good because we're not really intentional on harming someone. We just want to feel safe. But we need to get the nervous system what it needs, right? So how do we do that? Well, in my mentorship, in my apprenticeship with my shamanic mentor, Robert, we got into this fairly deep, and I started exploring creating a space. And I called this the white space originally. We'd bring the client into this white space, and we would bring them into contact with the aspect of self that was stuck in this trauma. And then we would ask the aspect of self, because that's what I call the inner self, the aspect of self. And there's multiple of them, or a tribe, basically. And we would ask that aspect of self what it needed. And then it would tell us, and then we would give it what it needed. And sometimes it needed to set the offender on fire. I had one client who had been gang raped multiple times. And so her inner aspect of self that had dealt with that wanted to remove the genitalia of all of her assailants. And so we did that. And it's pretty profound, guys, because she left that session and never had that problem again. She had looked for 32 years to have relief on that. She came to me, and in 2 hours, she exited going, I feel nothing about it. I feel at peace. Her nightmares, the nightmares ended for her. She was able to have her life back. It was a huge deal for her. And it was a big deal for me to see her reclaim her life after that. So when we get in there, we get into the primal brain, we give the body what it needs so it can feel safe. Then we can transition it into what's called a want. Okay, that want allows this aspect of self to move on in its life, because now it has a new purpose, it has a new direction to go for it. And this is the one thing you need to heal trauma. Okay, you get the aspect of self what it needs to, so it feels defended, it feels safe, and it can return to balance. And then we plug it into what it wants, and voila, you don't have to deal with it anymore. Because what's fundamentally happening there is we're changing what's called an emotional association. Okay, triggers, emotional flashbacks, things like that, are emotional associations. Sorry about that. But you also have positive emotional associations, like me and my chocolate cubes. I think I have them. Yes. Now, if you love chocolate cubes, then you're going to have an affection for them, and you can send me some. I'm always open for more. My mouth is watering for it's Pavlov's response. Well, I have an emotional and sensory association with those, right? So this is very common for us to have this. What we're doing in this process is we're rewriting the emotional association from feeling paralyzed and panicked and in threat to indifference, calm, and peace. And that's how you heal trauma, guys. It's as simple as that. This relates to shifting out to, really, I have nothing else to say, honestly, because it's that simple. It breaks down to that. Now, I know there's a lot of science out there. There is a lot of relationship to how trauma affects the brain and the nervous system. But to get closure on that specific event, that's what's required. Okay? I find that very, very consistently. Now, we do have other things we need to do so we can normalize our nervous system back into its regulatory state where it's at peace. We've got to change mindsets. We got to deal with some of the after effects of programming and thought patterns and things like that. But when that a big emotional intensity is gone, then you can change your mind faster. Then you can adopt new skills and do new things because you don't have that threat anymore. Instead, you're free to actually transform your life. Okay? So this is pretty consistent in my clients. I had another client a couple of weeks ago who went through this process, and she emerged no longer needing the love of a man so that she felt whole. Think about that. Especially if you struggle with love addiction, you struggle with trauma bonding, you feel like you need another person to be whole, and that's one of those aspects of codependency. She exited this process not needing that anymore. She felt at peace. She felt calm. And that's pretty profound, guys. That's big. What would that do for your life if the trauma you were wrestling with were gone? What are you going to do when you have that? That's what I want you to think about. Okay. So, guys, I appreciate you being here. That's the one thing you need in order to heal your codependency and actually heal your trauma too, is get that one need met. Get the need met, and then these symptoms abate because there's no need for the symptoms. That inner aspect of self isn't crying for attention anymore. Okay, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. Join me on Monday because I'm going to be giving you the process that I use to help to make this happen for my clients. So you're going to have access to it. And now, also, if you want in on this, you want to master your ability to heal, and you want to have a one-on-one session with me, then I want you to click on the link above. It goes to closure.freetheself.com and apply for your spot in my upcoming 6-week course called Get Closure Now. Now, I'm very literal. There is 20 spots available. Well, there's 20 spots total. There's 19 available. And that's it. That's the max because you're getting a one-on-one session with me in that. So I have to cap it because I only have so much time in the day, right? So you want to get on that fast. Now, if money is a concern for you, don't let it be because I have options for you, okay? I'm a huge practice and believer in what's called income-aware pricing. And so I'm willing to help you get the healing you need in a way that's affordable and works for both of us, okay? So make sure you apply so you can get your seat, get your spot reserved in this because we start June 3rd. And if you want help in codependency, you want to break free from that and actually rediscover how to transition shame into love so that you can have more love about yourself rather than shame. And you want to create vital, fulfilling connections both with yourself and others, and you want to take control of your happiness. Join Codependency Confidence. The link is above. That's where you start if you want to overcome codependency. And if you want to heal your trauma, you go to closure.freetheself.com. Okay, guys, enjoy Endgame tonight. Enjoy Game of Thrones. I will see you guys on Monday, where I'm going to give you the process I use to make this happen for myself and my clients. So join me then. Thank you again for being a part of my community, for believing in me and being here and allowing me to impact your life. And remember, you're worth knowing, you're worth loving, and you're worth keeping. Talk to you guys on Monday. Bye-bye.